TV.
Welcome to the Australian Roundtable Podcast. Today is Sunday the 8th of March 2015. This is episode 22 of our weekly broadcast live at Australian Roundtable Podcast. On YouTube, that's youtube.com/user/Australian Roundtable. Hey, I'm Jono from the Australian Roundtable Podcast, and I'm looking a little bit tired today because I was so excited I couldn't get to sleep last night because today I'm on Aussie Beach TV.
This is Ethan from the Australian Roundtable Podcast, and you're watching me on Aussie Beach TV.
Hey, this is Dejna James, and you're watching me on Aussie Beach TV. G'day Australia, we're here today with the Australian Roundtable Podcast. So guys, just tell us a little bit about your show.
Well, the Australian Roundtable Podcast started a couple months ago at the end of 2014, just as an independent discussion panel for like-minded people to gather and discuss news and affairs that weren't being reported by the mainstream establishment, and to get an informed, involved community to be a part of the show and to get to progress alternative media here in Australia to a point where we can have a collaborative effort between different independent sectors of the alternative media network to come together, share like-minded ideas and discuss issues that really aren't being reported by the mainstream media.
Very nice. And your take on it?
Well, I'll wind it back a little bit. So about the middle of last year, a few people in Northern America started their own broadcasting live podcasts over the net, and technology has come a long way in the last couple of years. And so what these people were able to do was to connect with people around the world and then discuss topics from an alternative perspective. And I thought, this is fantastic. We need this kind of thing in Australia. So I decided I wanted to do that, but these shows work best when you've got 2 or 3 or 4 people make a real roundtable. And there was no one in my life at the time who I thought I could do that kind of show with. So I went out there and looked for some people, and I went to different groups and meetups and tried to find the right person. And I bumped into a guy one day, and I thought, oh, this guy seems to know what he's talking about. Let's see if we can do something together. And that guy happened to be Ethan. So we organised to sit down and do a show together. We did a practice show. I got another guy on board as like the colour guy, like the comedian guy. Because I think having a show, you want someone to sort of bounce off. And so the 3 of us sat down, recorded a practice episode. We really enjoyed it. And so then we scheduled our first episode. And this was early October 2014. And since then, it's been a weekly show. It's up to 22 episodes as of today. We've done 3 G20 specials as well. And it's been an absolute blast.
Alright guys, so what do you feel is the role of the mainstream media at this current time?
I think, well, actually we're talking about this on today's show, episode 22 of the Australian Roundtable Podcast. I'll be doing a piece talking about the fact that the mainstream media in Australia today is really the Ministry of Truth from George Orwell's 1984. They're the propaganda arm of the government, and you don't have to look too far into it to realise that that's exactly what's going on. So the mainstream media are just there to deceive the people and to keep them believing in things that actually don't help them. And I see the alternative media, the real alternative media, because much of what we call the alternative media is just controlled by the same people who control the mainstream media. So the real alternative media, people like myself and Ethan with this Australian Roundtable Podcast, people like Jack Russell behind the camera there with his Aussie Beach TV, the genuine alternatives, I see us as people who can get the real truth out to the people using some of those facilities that I mentioned before.
I completely agree with that, hence why we do Aussie Beach TV. How do you feel about it?
Well, I've said this on the show before. I have researched extensively and written papers, independent papers, and I've had experience within the mainstream media, so I know the mainstream media fairly well. My experience was when I started out, for example, anything criticising the government was not allowed, and that resonated something in my mind to question why I wasn't allowed to do that. Even though the people may have pitched the ideas, even though it was a citizen media outlet, why were the issues that the citizens wanted to talk about, whether it be rising transport costs, whether it be the government taking away their civil liberties, whether it be the VLAD laws that were introduced, which criminalise almost everyone in groups of 3 or more. Why can't these issues be spoken about through the mainstream media? And as I discovered alternative media, and as I discovered independent sites like Aussie Beach TV, Real News Australia, Truth News, Radio Australia, and my own website as we developed it, I discovered there is an agenda behind it. And the agenda of the mainstream media is to reinforce public opinion, but not just reinforce public opinion. It creates the public opinion. And that's where certain university levels don't go beyond. They get to the point where the mainstream media is the arm of the government. It does serve agendas. People know that. They're taught that. They're trained that. I was trained that. But they don't understand that the mainstream media can create the public opinion to manipulate. So, for example, during the easiest one that university students learn is the Cronulla riots, where there was a small, insignificant little event. People like Alan Jones on 2GB radio incited racial hatred, as it turns to get, as they so-called call it, alcohol-fueled violent people to come and get Lebanese gang and create this whole massive scene so that they could then film it. They could reinforce public opinion. They could then make the people eager because they want to tune in for the 6 p.m. bulletin, which then raises advertising. And this is something that the mainstream media do, because not only were they creating the public opinion, Lebanese gangs are bad, but they're also manipulating it because they're skewing public opinion. So that's where shows like the Australian Roundtable Podcast come in so vitally, because we need to be here to present the alternative, the truth, and to get past the lies, spin and deception of this mainstream media.
So really you're saying that the media has a lot to do with swaying the public's opinion in order to keep them in fear?
Yes, that's exactly right, because if you keep people in fear, if you keep people believing that this is the way that things are supposed to be and don't actually offer any solutions as to why things are like this, then you can keep them in fear, you can keep them consuming, you can keep them stuck in this rabbit system, which is it's a false reality of enslavement that people don't understand that we're in. And that's how the mainstream media is so vital, because they tell you it's meant to be like this and they don't tell you who's responsible for it.
And that's where you guys come in, right?
Well, we like to think so. And look, we've only been doing this show for about 6 months, but already some of the feedback that we're getting from people all around the world is that they appreciate the time that we put into researching what we research, and we provide all of the links to what we say. So whereas you can sit down and watch the 6 p.m. news and it tells you to believe this, to believe that, to hate this person, to hate that person, and then what do? Everything that we say, we link our references to on our website. So if we say something that sounds like it might not be true, it might be controversial, well, check the links for yourself, do your own research. We like to think that I can't speak for Ethan here, but I like to think that the information that I provide is stuff that might be true, it might not be true. I believe it's true, I wouldn't say it otherwise. But if it's not true, you can find that out for yourself by doing your own research. And that's, I think, the biggest difference between the real alternative media and the mainstream media, and even the so-called alternative media, is they're not providing the work there for you to go and do the research for yourself. They're still telling you what to believe. And in my experience, any time that someone tells you what to believe and doesn't give you reasons why, they're probably lying to you. And I like to think that on our show we do the complete opposite. We say, well, hold on, don't believe us. This is just our opinions. Here's why we believe it. You do your own research.
Okay, guys, so how can people within Australia and around the world get involved and really become the media themselves, get involved in citizen media and get involved with it all?
Well, as Jono said before, it's never been a better time throughout history to get involved in this. The internet's the one last thing that we do have left in all practical senses, and more every day, more and more podcasts are starting up, more and more news forums are starting up, independent websites are starting up, because people have seen the example. And we say on the show every time, if we can do it, you can do it. We're just average citizen media journalists. We're just people that are concerned. Once you get past the barriers of whatever it is that are holding you back from that, if you can get past that, if you can build it up, it's never been easier. You can, what I mean, we've said you can get in touch with us if you want to. We can show you how to use Google Hangout, how to, microphones aren't cheap. It's a really easy process for such a big cause. That's what I like to put to people, because the internet, as they continue to try and suppress it, as they continue to censor YouTube, they continue to censor all of this, we have strength in numbers. So if you're out there, if you're new to this, if you've been a listener for ages, if you want to get involved, you need to get involved right now, because this is the most crucial time that we do need you, because they're starting to attack us. But if we're in numbers, we can continue on and really make citizen media become a collaborative community where we can take the mainstream media on from the grassroots level.
It's all there. As much as I don't want to promote Google, just a simple web search will tell you how to do these things. Within 2 hours, if you're listening to this right now, within 2 hours you can be broadcasting to the world. Now obviously when you start broadcasting it doesn't mean you're going to instantly have people listening to you. That's where you've got to do the hard work, do the networking like we've done. But now that we've done this here in Australia, we've got the Australian Roundtable. It's not the Jono Roundtable or the Ethan Roundtable or the Lindsay Roundtable, it's the Australian Roundtable. And our hope is now that we've built this platform, more people will get on board and we'll really start to make it something that's collaborative and bigger than any one of us individually.
Okay, nice. So I actually recently read that only 5% of the internet is actually shared towards the public. 95% of that is hidden and not released. With all the stuff that we have that we can see, only being 5%, what do you think that 95% is that's being covered up?
That's a terrific question. We haven't actually done a segment on the dark net before, Dejna, so you've given me some research to do for the next episode. I'll throw that one over to Ethan.
Ethan?
Who knows really? It's a tough thing too because there's not much that can document what it actually is. You know, you can see through historical times, through radio, through all of these mediums throughout the 20th century, you have documented evidence within people writing books and whatnot. When the internet was developed, they developed the internet where they can keep a close guard on it. And where are we going to go to look for the information? The internet? You know what I mean? It's hard to find it. There are information out there from people that have started the internet, but as I said, it's mainly backdoors, tracking. You know, it's all come out to light. You can find it all there. That the microphones in laptops are on. That the software in your computers, you know, is listening to you. That everything's being tracked. That there's infinite clouds that can store all of your data and all of these terms and conditions. Most people don't know when you join Facebook, you sign an agreement in the terms and conditions where they can alter your work, they can alter your pictures, they can sell your pictures and content to third parties, they can do all of this to incriminate you. All of these things that are not revealed to the public, even Queensland Rail. Queensland Rail free Wi-Fi. Most people don't read the terms and conditions there where they say they can send it to multiple parties, they can sell your information off, they can store it. We did a segment on Samsung TVs, you know, it's expanding outside of the internet now where they're spying on you. So just backdoors and corruption and whatever the dark net is, it's not good for the people.
So definitely with the corruption side, obviously there's smuggling, there's drugs, there's weapons that get sold. And how do these things happen when they're all the way around the world on different sides? So clearly this might be within the dark web.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And how do these so-called terrorist organisations like ISIS allowed to have Facebook accounts and YouTube accounts and put all of these things on when some of our partners and collaborative affiliates that we have are getting shut down on YouTube, but yet these so-called ISIS terrorists have HD videos. You know, the internet, what is seen is there because they want it to be seen, and don't think that you have any control over the internet, no matter how you want to protect yourself through programs and everything. It's not going to work.
So Hillary Clinton says that we're in an information war, and the establishment is losing that war. What is your opinion on this?
Look, I agree that we're in an information war. I'll go a step further and say that all war is about information. And our colleague Lindsay did a segment on this last week on episode 21 of the Australian Roundtable Podcast. And the point that he was making, this is a point that's been made by many generals throughout war history, is that a huge aspect of war is the information that gets to your side and to the other side. So when they're passing things like, just recently there was a net neutrality bill passed in the United States. I think it passed 3-2. Now this is something that none of us know anything about yet, but it's already been passed. So what's it going to entail? Well, we can imagine what it might entail. Probably clauses that can make it harder for people like us to get our information out there, but make it easy for the establishment media to get their information out there. That's a part of the war. That's a battle that they're always going to win because they control the judiciary, they control the Congress, they can get those laws passed. The one thing that we have in this information war is the numbers, and that's what we've got in this entire war. We've always got the numbers, which is why it's so important, going back to what Ethan was saying before. The more people get out there and start putting information out there, it's one thing to shut down Aussie Beach TV or to try and shut down the Australian Roundtable Podcast, but what if there was 100 shows like this in Australia? You're going to shut down all of 100? Maybe you can. What if there was 1,000? There's 24 million people in this country. What if even 1% of those people decided to use the facilities that are there for them to use to get information out there? Are they going to shut us all down? How? How could they do that? Logistically, how could they do that? It wouldn't be possible. So yes, we're in an information war, and yes, they're winning some of those battles, but we've got the numbers behind us. We could easily win this war if enough people came out.
Aussie Beach TV, you are watching Aussie Beach TV. You're watching Aussie Beach